When we heard that the Board of Supervisors was going to have a working session with EQT and NextEra, we had a rally in the Valley and we brought out more than 1,100 people.
It's our policy, but it is also provided by law, the National Environmental Policy Act, the Endangered Species Act, National Historic Preservation Act, Clean Water Act, Clean Air, and other laws. And all of those laws specifically, and the requirements of those, at a minimum, need to be addressed in the environmental impact statement. If we are going to expand natural gas, if that is our societal and our economic mandate, there are really three ways we can do it. We can truck it, we can transfer it by rail, or we can put it into an interstate pipeline. Interstate pipelines are by far the safest way to transport natural gas. There are now more prolific supplies of natural gas, namely in the Marcellus and the Utica. The production currently exceeds the average demand, and those suppliers have a desire to get that product to market, and that's what we as a pipeline seek to do. Ultimately, we're seeking a certificate of public convenience and necessity to build a pipeline. That is, it's not a permit to build a pipeline, but really it represents a bundle of permits. And that process is overseen by the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, FERC, under the authority of the Natural Gas Act.
How much property is needed to locate one of these compressor stations?
Typically, the footprint of a compressor station is about 5 acres.
Where does it actually go?
Yeah, it terminates at the Transco system at their station 165 in Pennsylvania County. The current capacity that we're looking for is between 2 and 2.5 BCF a day. The owner of gas, the owner of the actual commodity, will pay a pipeline owner-operator to reserve space so that they have the ability to ship on an ongoing, consistent basis to get their product to market. I know there's a lot of landowners in this room that probably have received notice. We want to know from you where the sensitive areas on that property are. We recognize nobody knows better than you. And we will continue to work with those people, try to get voluntary access. Ultimately, if we cannot do that, we will send a letter informing people that in 10 days or after 10 days, we will access the property as per law. First, the landowner is compensated for the easement that is obtained on the land, and that compensation is intended to provide for a diminution in value. The truth is, there will be no material diminution in value. That is what the studies have indicated.
Actually, the tax revenue would increase as a result of the installation of the facility, so it will be a net.
Wrong. That won't happen. We already seeing them going down just talking about it.
How often have you disputed when the landowner said, my well has been affected? How often have you disputed those claims and said, look, you're going to have to take us to court? What percentage? I'm not asking you to give me exact cases. How frequently are you fighting landowners over when they're coming to you and saying that our wells are gone?
Yeah, we're not aware of that. I mean, that's...
I didn't hear you mention seismology and the risk of that.
Right, no, I did not. And that's because it is not a major risk to pipeline construction. There's actually beyond consideration of the geologic conditions, there are not federal regulations for seismic conditions. And we're not building this for the export of gas. However,
I hope you think you're Johnson.
Honestly, I don't, number one. But number two, frankly, that's just a larger federal policy question than the four of us are equipped to handle. There has been, to my knowledge, the federal government has permitted one facility for export. I don't know whether that was a good idea. I don't know whether it was a bad idea. But what I do know is because of low-cost, cleaner fuel, we are attracting manufacturing jobs back to the United States, and we are lowering our emission profile.
Why was Floyd County dropped from your radar?
The amount of opposition in Floyd County had absolutely no impact on the movement of that line.
Is it fair to say that's the first time you realized that there were coal mines on Brush Mountain?
I mean, it's fair to say that this is the first time I've realized a lot of stuff.
Do you have any of your information to say if one of these things blows up, what's the blast radius for a 42-inch pipeline?
I haven't done the calculations for a 42-inch pipe.
Well, that's all the questions I have.
But from the audience, one of our members, Stockton Maxwell, did give the answer that they should have had on stage.
That's 1,000 PSI, talking 660 feet blast radius. That's conservative.
What we wanted to do was ask them questions. But what we were told was going to happen is we would have to write our questions down, give them to the Board of Supervisors, and they would be the ones and only ones to ask the questions.
Elsewhere it states, quote, no planting of trees or deep-rooting plants would be allowed. Since much of the Virginia route is through forested land, is this a contradiction?
The straightforward answer is, in an area that is forested, those trees would have to be removed, and because of the root system and because of the impact they could have on the pipe, they would not be replanted.
No, there's no special equipment needed for a natural gas emergency.
Do you know?
Yeah, no, we don't know.
At the very end, Mr. Brown did open it up for citizens to speak, but there's only 10 minutes given to that, so many questions went unasked and unanswered.
You haven't done a project this big, you haven't done a project this long, so do you think you're up to it, and why?
Yeah.
Given that EQT is currently under criminal charges for the pollution of 3 waterways in Pennsylvania.
Not sure specifically of the incident that you're referring to there. I think it may have to do with a recent incident in Pennsylvania where during the drilling of a well, the pit was actually damaged, and that was rectified immediately, and there is currently a dispute on the amount of penalty. So the penalty has not been, is the only thing that's been disputed.
Would you like to comment on the citations that you have according to OSHA's website within the last 4 years in the states of West Virginia, Virginia, Pennsylvania, and Texas?
Is that an EQT question or a NextEra question?
I'm sorry?
Yes.
Yeah.
You're together.
Are you?
It's an EQ.
It's an EQT, yes. No.
I don't think many of us were pleased with the answers that NextEra and EQT gave at that working session. When they were asked simple questions like what would be the pressure coming through the pipeline, they didn't know. They hadn't worked that out yet. We asked them what was the largest pipe they'd ever constructed. They said 30 inches. This one they're going to construct here is proposed to be 42 inches. We said, what was the longest pipeline you've ever constructed? They said 30 miles. This one will be 330 miles. They seemed unprepared to be there, unqualified to be there, lacking the experience, and it was quite obvious with everything they said, they were in the wrong place.
People can really make a difference. When we began this, the Board of Supervisors said, this is a landowner issue. This isn't our issue. And we were able to convince them, and a whole lot of people came in to convince them that this was something they needed to deal with. But they're just a first step, and we now have to move forward and energize the masses to get to our state legislators, ultimately the federal legislators. And I really do believe we can beat this thing if we stay unified and stand together.
Let's stand up to corporate special interests, hold elected officials and industry accountable. It's long past time that we end the fossil fuel era and get serious about wind, solar, and other true renewables.